What is up, Nuggets? It's your boy, Killer Pizza, here with a brand new video for you rascals and rapscallions out there. As you can tell from the title, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A. I believe we have 18 questions in total. I'm very excited to answer each and every question. And let me just say, I'm very humbled that you guys sent these questions, because the reason I started this YouTube channel in the first place, if you're not familiar, is I just want to talk horror. As simple as that. And I mean, like, some of my best friends like horror, but they're not the ones that want to talk about street trash. You know what I mean? So I made this channel with the goal in mind to build a bit of a community and make some friends online, people I can discuss this stuff with. And here we are doing a Q&A, 18 questions. So once again, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And I thought a fun way to start this video would be just explaining like my introduction. So it's like me explaining a question about myself or whatever. You know how it goes. It's your boy, Killer Pizza. So my name is not Killer Pizza. I never intended for me to be Killer Pizza. It's just the channel name. And my tag team partner, one half of the Cream Street Mafia, my best friend in the world, Nick Baker, gives me so much shit to this day for doing that classic YouTube trope. It's your boy, Killer Pizza. And then the Nuggets part, which I looked up on Urban Dictionary, apparently it means like stupid people, which I don't think you guys are stupid. Well, stupid is as stupid does, but that was just like something my friend Eric Mackey used to say back in the day. Rest in peace. He used to say like, "What's up, Nugget?" And then I think like Owen Hart, "I'm not a Nugget," and the Rascals and Rapscallions is like mischievous people. And I just kind of put it together when I first started. And not that I'm superstitious, but I just kind of kept it that way. And nobody's complaining, so you know, that's the way we're keeping it for now. So anyways, that's the explanation of the introduction. But anyways, 18 questions. If I don't get to your question long enough, I apologize, because I don't want to make this video a half hour long, but I want to go in a bit of a detail. But anyways, number one, this is from Michael Rota. He says, if you could ever direct a horror movie, what would it be about, and would it be 80s horror or new school horror? So, fact is, I've been writing a lot of film. I've been a writer my whole life. That was always where I excelled in school, all the way up to the small amount of time I went to college. And I have a very close friend of mine, Carlos, one of my best friends. We have two scripts, actually. We have a action movie which takes place in the 80s. It's an 80s themed action movie. And then we have a comedy we wrote, which is kind of like a combination of The Hangover and Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, but like road trip. We have our own spin on it. And yeah, I have been thinking about directing. It's more of getting the budget. Me and Nick Baker actually came up with a script. And I'll just tell you what it's about. Like the idea of it, because you know, you could steal the idea. We didn't invent it, and I think we could do it better. But more of Nick's idea. We want to do something where it's like all not found footage, but like 2023 people filming with their phones, Snapchat, surveillance cameras at the cabin, and you know, just like all these different forms of media that record that would piece together the story rather than it being shot traditionally, which we thought would be kind of like a fun way to shoot a 20-30 minute project and with a low budget and make it fun or whatnot. Anything I direct, when I start, I want to make it 20-30 minutes just to make sure I can do it right before I put my name on something bigger. I respect every director out there. John Carpenter is my favorite director of all time, and I would love to do something. But yes, if it's up to me and I could eventually do something like a big time project, it would be an 80s style slasher would be what I would do. And I don't look too much into originality with it, like with the concept. I just think if you have good dialogue, likable characters, and good practical effects and kills, you're golden. Good setting and scenery as well. Okay, so we have Nick B. This is not Nick Baker, this is Nick B. Did you like the Attitude Era of WWE wrestling better than what wrestling is today? Now, first and foremost, I like a lot of wrestling before the Attitude Era. I think as much as people gripe about today's wrestling, I don't care for it as much as the older stuff, but there's always going to be a bit of the past in the present and future, regardless, because that's the foundation. So, like, my main love of wrestling is maybe like mid to late 80s to like early 90s WWF, which a lot of people don't like. But that's kind of what I grew up on in the video store days and whatnot. But yes, I do think the Attitude Era is better than pretty much anything else, because there was no boundaries and rules back then. And they kind of filmed it more like a TV show than a wrestling program. And it was revolutionary at the time. You know, think of all the moments. Like, I can't think of matches that are the most memorable of that time. I mean, I could, but it's more like Vince getting his Corvette filled up with cement, Vince getting sprayed with the beer truck, uh, the Zamboni incident in Joe Louis Arena, and then the Bang 316 with the gun on Vince. Like, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, those happened 4 Monday Night Raws in a row, 1 month, every one of those moments. How fucking cool is that? So, yes, I do think the Attitude Era was better. Will we ever go back to it? No, but we can build upon it and make something new and even better, hopefully. All right, we have Zachariah. Now, this is the question I really dug. It says, if you had to be stuck in a horror movie, which one and why? Now, first of all, I thought, dude, this question blows, because not that's a bad question, but like, why would I want to be stuck in any horror movie? I don't want to be murdered and killed. So it made me think, and it was a lot of fun. First of all, I would think my favorite horror movie of all time, well, my third favorite, behind Return of the Living Dead and The Thing, I would say Dawn of the Dead. It would be the funnest, because, you know, as a kid, I just loved the idea of being in that shopping mall and doing the shopping spree and just doing whatever you want. But more so, I thought about it, maybe like Night of the Comet would be a better one, because Night of the Comet, the killers, the mutants, the zombies, or whatever you call them, were maybe a little quicker than in Dawn of the Dead, but they were very far in between. And on top of that, I just love that girls just want to have fun, montage of them shopping in the mall, similar to Dawn of the Dead. So pretty much any movie where I'm left alone from society and I can do whatever the hell I want, I guess the good answer. Also, maybe like the Lost Boys. If I could like be one of the Lost Boys, that would be pretty cool. You know, good music. You know, that cool underground lair. You know, hanging from the railroad tracks and whatnot. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Thank you for all the questions so far, by the way, all three of you guys so far. So now we have one from Pope. He says every '80s slasher ends up in a fully stocked but completely abandoned shopping mall where they have to fight to the death. Who's walking out of that fight? So he meant, he explained it more to me later. Out of all the slashers, if it was like a Mortal Kombat setting in the shopping mall, who would win? My heart wants to say like my favorites, like Jason Voorhees, right here. Fuck y'all. Jason Takes Manhattan is fucking awesome. But I feel like it would have to go more to like the supernatural slashers, because like how can you really fight against, like, even if you are like almost like a deadite or zombie like Jason after part 6, how are you really going to compete against like maybe like Pennywise or Pinhead or the Tall Man or Freddy Krueger? So I would have to put it up against like Freddy Krueger and Pinhead. But who's saying that Freddy's going to open the box? And who's saying that Pinhead's going to have a dream or sleep? Either way, I'm going to have to give it to Freddy, but my heart says Jason, so only if we can have a fight between the two of them. Okay, so Creature featured John Campa. First of all, John, if you're watching this, I know you just had hip surgery. John is the owner, one half owner of IWE Imperial Wrestling Entertainment out of Michigan. He just had hip surgery from wrestling-related injuries. I just want to say I hope you have a speedy recovery, my friend. Love you, brother. Get well soon. So he asks, who would win in a fight, Ash Williams or Reggie Bannister? So, as you guys know, I just recently binged all the Phantasm movies for the first time, besides the first. And I like this comparison because I caught the comparison, especially with part 2. Reggie kind of becomes the badass of the franchise. And this is Mortal Man versus Mortal Man. So really anybody could win it. My favoritism is towards Ash. Bruce Campbell's the fucking man. But logically, I gotta give it to Bruce. Because if you remember Army of Darkness, when the Deadite jumped out of the death pit, or at the end, the theatrical release end of Army of Darkness, Bruce came with that double-headed shotgun, kabam, kabam, his boomstick. I just think Bruce is quicker at the draw. And I think he dealt with more in the original movie. I think he's more of a veteran. He dealt with more. He knows how to deal with more serious entities. And like I said, quicker on the draw. Plus, he has a chainsaw for an arm. So I'm going Ash. Ryan Klein. Miss you, brother. He says, who is your favorite movie monster? So I have to give respect where respect is due to the Universal monsters. As a kid, I always liked the Wolfman. As I got older, I realized Dracula and vampires are the coolest. But I think the most significant would be Frankenstein's monster, like in movie history for Universal monsters. But with that being said, I'm going to go based on my age, what I grew up on, and just my preference because it's my list. So I'm going to say Pumpkinhead is my favorite movie monster. A shout out to the Tremors in the original Tremors movie. I absolutely love that movie. Shout out Bam. It's Backwoods Bam's favorite horror movie, but I'm going to go with Pumpkinhead. Let's see. We have now. This is a loaded question. I don't know if I can give you the full question, Dennis. This is from my boy Dennis Ryan. If I can't get to all this, I can make another video going more in depth about this. But he says, I want to hear your opinion on the evolution of horror movies from like the 80s till now. Like, what are your likes and dislikes? How did they improve? What could they do different now? Now, I feel like there's different stages in horror, so nothing's really wrong. You could go from the Universal to like the 60s, 70s, which was more exploitation. I think the prime was 80s horror movies because that's when they were pumped out the most. That's when there was the most original ideas, the best practical effects, no rules. And then I think in the 90s, it kind of was the same in the early 90s, but kind of came off as like direct to video horror more, kind of aged out of the 80s. And then after Scream came out, everything from then on to the early 2000s kind of became the same fucking movie. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, Final Destination, The Faculty, those type of movies, which I loved as a kid. As I got older, I disliked, but now that I get even older, I kind of like find the nostalgia because that's like the era I grew up in, late 90s, early 2000s when I was a kid. And then early 2000s kind of ran by CGI taking over and more of the Saw movies and Insidious and all that type of shit. And now we're kind of in the era of like remakes and everything, remaking every fucking movie. So I think every decade in every era kind of serves its purpose in horror. There's slow times and there's good times, which I think right now, especially like A24, there are a lot of original movies. I think we are in like a resurgence of horror, which I fucking love. I'm really digging what they're doing now. I just wish they would do less remakes and more original shit, and I think what could be done to make horror movies a little better, I think stop looking for the jump scare is what I would say. I think go back to making the story scary itself, because if the story is scary and you tell it the right way, it's going to resonate in your mind, body, and soul regardless. And then on top of that, then maybe you can add the jump scares once you add the foundation. But I think more original ideas. I don't mind CGI if it's done right. Like, look at Jurassic Park. Was that 93? And I haven't seen anything as good as that in motherfucking 30 years. So it's like, if it's used right, I like it. But if you don't have to use it, don't use it. I like a good mix of both. And I just think original ideas, get back to the basics where maybe like the scenery and the dialogue and the characters matter more. I don't know. I think it's a work in progress, but in my opinion, we're moving forward, and I think we're moving in the right direction. I love this question, Dennis. Thank you. And I wouldn't mind talking to you about this some more. Let's see. We have Thomas. He says, what horror movie or series has the best blood effects in your opinion? Why? What do you think makes great blood effects? So, if we're talking straight gore, I obviously got to go with like Dead Alive, Evil Dead, lots and lots of gallons of blood. But what I think has the best effects off the top of my mind, I mean, not off the top of my mind, I thought about this one last night a little bit. Pretty much anything by Tom Savini, but I would say his best work is Day of the Dead. And it's not a very graphic or gory movie for the most part, but when we get towards the end and the zombies are really like biting out, like when the dude gets his neck bitten out, in the way the shit stretches, it just looks good. And Captain Rhodes getting his guts tore out, I just think that's the peak of practical effects. I absolutely love it. And that goes back to what you said, what makes the best blood effects. I go off what Tom Savini once said. I seen in a documentary, he went to Vietnam, and he said he was a photographer, and he used to take pictures of like people dying, and maybe that fucked him up a little bit. But I think like the idea to see like what realistic blood and gore actually looks like, and kind of trying to recreate it, I think that's what does it for me. And also a shout out to Terrifier 1 and 2. I'd say 2 with that bedroom scene might be one of the goriest things I've seen. Not that was the question, but hopefully that answered. I'm kind of rambling. Tom Savini was a dick when I met him, by the way. Just throwing that out there. So Dennis says, Evil Dead or Return of the Living Dead? You know what's up, man. This is my shortest answer. Though I love the pride of Evil Dead, I'm from Michigan. Return of the Living Dead, my number one favorite horror movie. And I'll say the reason I love that movie so much is just the atmosphere, the punk rock shit, the grittiness, the humor. It checks every box, you know. And that's what I love about movies and horror. Like, everybody's different. So, like, what might make me tick might not make you tick, and we can all tick together in this horror community, you know, if that makes sense. So here we go. We have another one from Pope. We're going to switch it to wrestling. He says, if you could watch any 4 wrestlers, past or present, living or dead, wrestle in a 4-way dance, who would those wrestlers be and why? So, as a tag team wrestler, I first want to address tag wrestling. I would say the Midnight Express with Stan Lane, that version, the Rock and Roll Express, FTR, and the Briscoes. That's what I'd want to see. And when it comes to singles matches, I was kind of flip-flopping on this a little bit. I definitely got to go Brett and Shawn, even though they've wrestled a million times. Brett and Shawn, Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, one of my top 5. And the fourth was a hard one to pick. I thought Styles, Punk, you know, but no, Kurt Angle. So we're going Shawn, Brett, Angle, Danielson. I want a technical, hard-hitting match. That's what I'd like to see. All right, Stuntman Mike says, Stuntman Mike or Mike Goodman, PI? I like Dennis more. Dennis again. Which of these movies qualify for the greatest movie of all time, Pleasures of the Damned or Isle of the Damned? I've never seen both. You tell me which one's better, man. I'll check out the trailers. Might watch them. I do not know. I like a lot of shitty movies, so you might be in luck. Okay, let's see. So we have 2 more questions. Jenny says, in a fight, who would win? White Ranger, Tommy Oliver, Macho Man Randy Savage, or Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat? I gotta say, though Tommy is a Power Ranger, I grew up on Power Rangers. He's got his suit and he you know, all that type of shit. Not like powers, but like kind of like the Batman effect. Liu Kang would have to win it based off like he's got the Mortal Kombat kind of like, I don't know if he had powers, but that bicycle kick seemed like he had motherfucking powers. But Macho Man seems like the odd man out. It's just a mortal man that couldn't win it. But with that being said, oh yeah, an elbow drop from the top rope. Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm going with the Macho Man Randy Savage. You dig it? And last but not least, Jeremy says, and I love that this is the last question because this seems like the best way to wrap this up. What movie made you fall in love with horror genre? I botched the finish. What movie made you fall in love with horror genre and why? So, the movie itself, I would probably say, well, for one, I want to give a little background story, and like I'm gonna go off of your question, Jeremy, like why I love horror, and then I'll get to what you were asking. The reason I love horror so much, I think, is I grew up in kind of like a lower class family, but like if we did good in school, like every Friday we could go rent movies at Videotron. It was 3 movies, 3 days for $3. My sister would get one, I'd get one, my mom would get one. I'd get a wrestling tape or one of the Rocky movies every single time. My sister would always get a horror movie. I was like 5 or 6 years old, way too young to watch this shit. And we would sit out on the fold-out couch and watch the horror movies together. She would always try to get the goriest movies ever. And if you're watching this, my sister, shout out Nikki, you rule. I would just say, the ones we watched a lot, we really liked Dawn of the Dead is one we grew up on. Tom Savini's remake from 1990 of Night of the Living Dead. The first 3 Child's Plays. What else? Night of the Demons we watched quite a bit. Damn, I know. People Under the Stairs. We used to love People Under the Stairs. And so I don't think it was more of like a movie in itself that like stood out and grabbed me in. Maybe a lot of those, like any one of those I mentioned. I think it was more like hanging out with my sister and just like that time and experience, like in the video store, you know, and all that type of stuff. But yeah, if I had to say any movie, it would be a zombie movie for sure. It'd be like the remake, 1990 Night of the Living Dead, Dawn, Day, like I said, People Under the Stairs, Child's Play, lots of that stuff. And I don't know, I just got drawn into horror. And I think a big reason I really love horror to this day is because, for one, horror movies seem like they're kind of for the outcast. Not saying anybody watching this video is an outcast, but I mean, we've all felt that way, you know. I don't look like I should be in a bank commercial or nothing, you know. So, and I like rock and roll and all that shit, you know. And I just think it was kind of counterculture. Horror always kind of was, and horror can give you every element of each genre you want. Like I said in my Evil Dead review, Evil Dead Rise. There's always going to be a bit of humor before the killer attacks in a horror movie, because you're not going to be all serious and scared before a horror movie starts. I mean, some movies are, but I heard some noise and I was like, "What's that?" It's kids playing outside. Damn kids! But also, you know, so you have that humor, but you also can have mystery and mystery on like who's the killer, suspense on when's this going to happen, a thriller because you don't know what's going to happen. You can have action, you know, lots of explosions and shit like this. I think horror is kind of like the buffet. You can have a bit of everything in a horror movie, and there's so many different kind of subgenres of horror too. Like, tell me any other genre that has found footage other than horror. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I love the Blair Witch, but Paranormal Activity, eh. But what other genre has found footage? There's so much range you can do with horror, but then you can still relate to the people that feel kind of like outcasts. And you know, the music's always good. It's kind of more of like a punk rock, metal, rock and roll kind of scene too. I don't know. I was just always drawn to it. And those were the movies I grew up loving. I digress, you know. So anyways, 18 questions. I actually got through this way faster than I thought I would. A bit parched. But I just want to say, guys, thank you for asking me all these questions. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Time flew by. I didn't rant and ramble too long. And if this is something you guys want to happen again, let me know. I really enjoyed answering all these questions. Which, feel free, any questions in this comment section. You know, let's keep this train rolling. I'll answer them in the comments. But I plan to do another Q&A soon, maybe a month or so, if you guys are interested in it. Anyways, I want to hear from you guys. Tell me any of your answers to any of these questions. Let me know. That'd be pretty fun, because I thought these were all really good questions. Besides Stuntman asking me about 2 movies I don't know. Screw you, Stuntman. But anyways, god damn it. Other than that, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, guys. And also, I don't mean to preach the shit. I never do, because I don't really give a shit if I got a lot of subs or nothing. Like I said, I made this channel just to talk horror. But I am 15 away from 700, I believe. So if you watch this video and you're not subscribed, help your boy get to 700. I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, hopefully everybody's having a great Sunday. Watch some spooky shit just for me. Other than that, Blood Guts Gore. I'll check you guys next time.